Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Dolphin Financial Radio Show. I'm Dan Wendell, owner of the Dolphin Financial Group, and today we're going to be talking about inherited IRAs. Now, we've done shows on this in the past, but this show is going to be talking about a particular update from the IRS that came out in, I believe, October 2022, which gives us a little bit more clarification on some uncertainty that came from the passage of the Secure Act and the implications that arose from inheriting an IRA. So if you want to hear about the rule update and get some more explanation, this is the show for you. Let's bring in another. There he is, another smiling face, Tony Shore.
Excited to be here, Dan. Yep.
So you said you're excited to be here.
I am.
Let's talk about an IRS notice 2022-53.
No. That's not why I'm excited to be here. You can't jump right into the technical stuff. We have to bring the noise first and then get into the meat of the show. I'm bringing the noise, right? So I like the Social Security poster behind you today. Love that.
Yes.
That's very cool.
I covered the electric box. The circuit breaker.
I wondered why. I'm like, it's a little not centered on that space, and then it's like, oh, I see why. Yeah,
you're giving up all my secrets, Tony. Wow, I feel naked here.
Well, IRA changes. You know, it's funny because there are a lot. I've been hearing a lot of advisors, such as yourself, talk about all the changes. I mean, to Medicare, Social Security, IRAs, tax changes. I mean, every year there are some changes to those things, but this year it seems like across the board, 2023 brings a lot of changes that can really affect people.
Well, these changes I want to talk about today are part of the Secure Act from 2019, but there was some uncertainty around it, and they just finally clarified it. So that's what I want to talk about. For those that are watching on YouTube and can see my Social Security poster, on the bottom there, you could see the link to the actual IRS publication that I'm going to reference. But let's go a little bit back in time, Tony. Secure Act, setting every community up for retirement enhancement. I have to read it. 2019. So
all the acronyms.
They raised the RMD, required minimum distribution, starting age to 72.
Mm-hmm.
But they eliminated the stretch IRA. Remember this?
Oh, yeah. You can't. Yeah.
You can't pass an IRA down to little Johnny and have him stretch it out over his life.
Right.
They changed the rules. Yet it was still confusing. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Inherited IRA. When do you have to take distributions when you inherit an IRA? And I use the term non-eligible. If a non-eligible beneficiary inherits an IRA, they have to take it within 10 years, right? That was the new rule. You have to take it and take it out of the IRA and pay the IRS the taxes.
No matter what your age is, if you inherit an IRA, it's no longer age dependent. But is it dependent on the age of the person that you inherited it from? Like, let's say I inherited. Okay.
Yes. So we did a show on that. I'll put it up here. We did a very comprehensive show on the Secure Act and the Inherited IRA rules. And in that show, which I reviewed because I didn't remember it either. We did it over a year ago now, maybe two.
Right.
We talked about this particular rule. Why is the stretch gone? What am I doing? And I go into detail about the eligible beneficiary versus a non-eligible beneficiary. So if you're a spouse and you inherit an IRA, you could take it as your own and still do what you do and take it over your lifetime. You're not required to take it in 10 years. But if you're like you, Tony, if your parent passed away, they're more than 10 years older than you, I hope. And then you inherit the IRA, you are now required to spend that down or to take it and use it within 10 years, which is a change from where it used to be. So that's what I want to talk about. But the question is, do you have to start taking it immediately, or can you wait until the 10th year and take it all as a lump sum then? Very big question, because if you can have 10 years of a Roth tax-free growth, or you can have 10 years of an IRA, deferring taxes. You can position it where it's like, well, right now I'm making a lot of money as a radio host, but in 5 years when I retire, I might not have the income, so I'll take it all then. So when we did that previous show, we weren't sure. I wasn't sure about whether or not you can delay and take everything in the 10th year.
Right.
And I was not alone.
Yeah.
So
I know you weren't. Wait, though.
Yes.
Can I interject one thing just to clarify for myself before you talk about whether you have to start taking some right away or you can just wait till that 10th year? If my dad has an IRA and he dies at 65, and it's a traditional IRA, and I inherit it, is that 10-year rule still good for? I mean, is it? I still doesn't matter how old he was, like if he was 50. Okay.
Very, very good question. It's like you read my mind. When do you have to take distributions? If you're a non-eligible beneficiary, which you are, in this case, you have to take it within 10 years. But do you have to begin distributions right away, right? If the original owner, so say your dad, was taking RMDs before they died,
so he was 72 or older.
He was 72, right? Then you have to keep those RMDs going right away.
Oh, that's what Okay.
I'll give you the actual language. So if you wanted to read it, or those listening, they can't read or know where the link is to the Social Security ruling. But here's what they say in quotes. Now I'm quoting the Social Security from that document I linked. Quote, if the employee dies after distributions have begun, meaning they started taking distributions, the employee's remaining interest must be distributed at least as rapidly as under the distribution method used by the employee. And the key term there is at least as rapidly as when they died.
Sure. And by employee, they just mean the person that had the IRA.
Right. Yeah. And because they go into like a 401k or, qualified funds. And quote, must take an annual required minimum distribution beginning in the first calendar year after the calendar year of the employee's death. So in your case, if your father passed away and he is 72 or older, or he's already taking RMDs, you would have to take RMDs right away. You'd have to start that the first calendar year after the calendar year if your father died. So if your father died this year, you'd have to, and you inherited his IRA, you'd have to start the distributions next year. So that's, But your question was this: what if the person dies before beginning their own required distribution?
Exactly. That was my question. Yep.
So this is what the
Secure Act did. Again. Yeah.
The old rule, no, it's a good question. So we have established if someone's already taking required minimum distributions and you inherit their IRA, you got to keep it going at least as much as they were doing. Right. So at least as rapidly was the term. So you have to use their life expectancy and their RMD schedule to continue that. So you can't just say, I'm going to wait 10 years and then take it in the 10th year. Now, the old rules were if you inherited it from your dad and he's not yet taking required minimum distributions, you'd have to distribute it within 5 years of their death. That's the 5-year rule. Or you could distribute it over your life expectancy. That was the old rule. The new rule is the 5 years is lengthened to 10. So the 10-year rule now, you have to take it over 10 years, not 5. But regardless of whether the person dies before the required beginning date or not, you have to take it within that 10 years. You can't stretch it over your lifetime anymore.
Right.
This is again for non-spouse or non-eligible beneficiaries. So they are qualifying a little bit. So what would the big debate was, and they had this comment period. You hear about the comment periods on federal rulings. What happens in those? Well, a bunch of people that get really into this stuff comment and say, hey, listen, what about this 10-year rule? Can I wait to the 10th year? This is confusing. The 5-year rule, you could wait. Now you can't with the 10. What's going on? Do I have to take RMDs or not? Give us some clarification. And they're suggesting you got to take it over 10 years the way I read it and the way I think it's going to come out, and they're going to give hopefully some more guidance, but they came out in February of 2022 and said, you have to take every year. You can't delay until the 10th year now.
Even if the person that passed wasn't taking RMDs yet, you still can't wait till the 10th
That is the question. What can you do? And the way I'm looking at it is they're saying, yeah, you have to start taking RMDs.
Wow. Regardless.
So this is still a gray area though. And they came out with this ruling, and I'm looking at it, and here's why it's important. They said they're going to, so if you do something wrong here, why it's so important to get it right. Because if you don't take your RMD when you're supposed to, you get hit with a penalty.
And it's a big one.
It's a big one.
Isn't it
50%?
50%?
Exactly. And it's not a penalty. It's not a penalty. It's an excise tax. It's a penalty. So
yeah.
50% penalty. So Tony, if you inherit an IRA,
you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
Right. If you inherit an IRA,
right to say,
and you were supposed to take it within 10 years, right? And you said, I'm going to wait. And you didn't take anything in 2020 when you inherited it.
Right.
Or in 2019 when this rule, right? And you missed that. And you were supposed to have taken 10,000 out according to the rules, and you missed it. You would get penalized or an excise tax of $5,000. But here's the deal. Because it was so darn confusing, what the IRS did in this same thing is said in the same report, they offer a reprieve. They say, quote, to the extent a taxpayer did not take a specified RMD as defined under section 4-C of this notice, the IRS will not assert an excise tax is due under section 4974.
Oh.
So they are waiving the excise penalties on people that failed to do the RMDs in this scenario because they just were confused, because it is confusing.
It is. Yeah.
2023 is not going to be the same. They're done with the forgiving.
Oh, this isn't forever. This is just for
2019, 2020, 2021. They said, all right, we're sorry. We see from the feedback it was confusing. Enough of that. Here's where we're going to go going forward. And by the way, if you missed it, don't panic. We're not going to fine you. And if we did and you paid the fine or the excise tax, we're going to refund it to you. So you can fill out a form, ask for a refund, and they're going to, I don't know how long that'll take, but you never know. So they'll give you a
long
refund
time.
on your IRA. So on your RMD excise tax.
Right.
So interesting stuff. Now, before we go any further and before I forget, I need to make sure everyone's aware that I'm not providing tax advice. And to help with that, I'm going to bring on a friend of mine, and we'll see what he has to say about this.
Dolphin Financial Group does not provide tax advice. See a CPA for tax advice.
Oh, I don't know. So here's the deal. If you inherited an IRA after 2020 or beyond, there's some rules that you need to be aware of, and you need to make sure you do it right. So start looking at it, start coming up with a plan, talk to your financial professional, talk to your CPA, tax preparer, and say, hey, am I doing this right? Am I taking the right amount? Because they've given a little leeway. They're done with the leeway. They're saying get in order. So as a conclusion, I would say the RMD rules were confusing. IRS admitted that. They gave more specifics. They eliminated the penalties because of the confusion. The excise tax has been reprieved, but don't get complacent now, because they're not going to give it forever.
Well, here's the punchline, Dan, and here's what our listeners need to understand is because of things like this. I mean, really the bottom line is you need to be working with somebody who stays on top of these things and deals with this every day. A financial services professional like yourself, a financial advisor who digs into this stuff, and you can help your clients. If they come to you, you have a client, they say, I inherited this IRA, or one of our listeners said, I just inherited an IRA and I'm not sure what to do. they can come to you. You're not a tax professional, but you work with tax professionals. You understand the law, and you look at the big picture, right? You don't just look at their current tax situation. You look at their overall financial picture and say, okay, in your case, the best interest would be to do this and to delay this, but do this now. Here's what you can do under the rules, that type of thing. And you can refer them to a trusted tax professional and work alongside their CPA. So I don't think anybody should make any moves without a financial professional like yourself. And if our listeners have questions, they can call you, right?
Absolutely. And you're right, Tony. It's tough because I'm a certified financial planner. I do a lot of tax planning. I don't do tax returns, but I'm talking to them. I'm talking to, hey, let's plan this. And one of the things I'm required to do is act in people's best interest. And if I see an inherited IRA that is not following the rules, I'm going to be the first to say, hey, we got to do something with this.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, what do we do? And we talk to the CPA and we come up with a plan and we make sure that doing my guidance at this point is, you know what, if you're thinking you might run afoul of this rule, just start taking the required minimum distributions. You know what I mean? Just start taking it.
But if you want to know, oh, well, how do I do that? And what do I do? That's where you come in. And it's so important because I know for your clients, you're constantly doing the math, looking at the angle, saying, how can we minimize your tax burden? And that's what we all want. We want to make sure we're doing it right so we don't get penalized or have that excise tax levied against us, but so you look at that, but anyway, of minimizing your tax burden, minimizing penalties, that's what you're looking out for.
Exactly. And what's interesting is a lot of times you get that fair market value letter at the end of the year on an IRA in early part of the year. You see December 31st, this is what my IRA was worth, and this is what I'm going to use to calculate what my required minimum distribution is. 2022 has been a pretty terrible year for stocks. So, maybe you mess up and think, oh, I could take less because my accounts go down, but oh no, it's based on what it was on December 31st, which was basically the peak of the stock market in 2021. So, it can get confusing. I suggest people really pay attention to this. Take a look at that. I'll put the link back up for those that are watching in case they want to see what that IRS notice was. Read it for yourself. Think about it. Do not miss it because, picking a bad stock or paying a late fee on a bank or paying interest on a credit card. That's tough. That's not good. But an excise tax of 50%, inexcusable. That's one you just don't want to hit.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Good show, Tony.
Great show, Dan.
Hey, we're talking about IRS stuff, and you stayed awake the whole time. We're with us the whole time. I could tell. I saw your dog walk past you. You're probably saying he's like, time for breakfast. But
well, you did whatever. I borrowed it from my IRA.
Right.
Yeah.
Mom, that's from my Roth IRA.
IRAs. It's amazing how confusing these can be.
Yeah.
We'll catch up on a show in the beginning of 2023 when we could talk about if the IRS comes out. If the IRS comes out with another ruling or more guidance, we'll do it. But for now, I wouldn't bet against them. I would totally start taking my RMD. Thanks for a good show, everyone. We'll catch you next week.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Wendell nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.